Ladies and gentlemen, Justin Winterbo, Thrash Metal Guru here. Welcome back. Well, I guess I'm doing I guess you could say somewhat of a rant on today's subject matter on this, but I haven't really kind of delved into much areas of this, so I'm going to actually just try to dissect this with pretty much my own personal perspective on this. So we are at metalcastle.net, which is over the regards of the subject matter, which is entitled James Hetfield responds to Metallica fans' criticism. Metallica is Metallica, and somebody covering our song isn't going to change us. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me just kind of like put things in clear perspective, because obviously, as you may know, I am a Metallica fan. I actually happen to be one of the biggest Metallica fans ever in the whole wide world. Now, I'm not saying that I am pretty much the most knowledgeable or pretty much the most, you know, like above every other Metallica fan that there is, okay? I just like to say that I'm one of the most biggest fans of Metallica. However, that does not mean, again, from others that I would actually put myself above other people as a fan. But I'm saying this more into the fact that, like, as one of the biggest fans of Metallica ever, that I've never been disappointed with anything that they've done. Any album that have been released, I haven't listened to the Lulu album. It's not my cup of tea for that one. But I'm saying just in general wise, with their own music, what they do, I have never been disappointed, not once. That being said, this is something that I want to cover because there is something I kind of do want to respond to in terms of people's regards to this. You know what? I'm allowed to voice my opinions about it, and I'm allowed to disagree with people in their regards to it. But first, I'm going to read this to you so that way the subject matter is clear, and that way it's a little bit more clear in the context to explain. James Hetfield responded to Metallica fans' concerns about the band's future. Metallica frontman James Hetfield has responded to his band's criticism and concerns and said that Metallica is Metallica, so there is nothing to worry about for the band's future. James Hetfield is one of the greatest singers in rock and roll history. I agree with that line. Now that's the line I'm going to cover here because there's somebody who disagrees with that. Fine, but like I'm allowed to put my 2 cents on that. But let me get back to that in a moment. He is doing great work with his band Metallica, who has been flying the heavy metal flag for 4 decades. With his band, James Hetfield has released 10 studio albums in total and showed off how important a musician he is for the community. I gotta slow my voice down for some reason. Throughout its 40-year career, Metallica has released 8 live albums, 10 video albums, 42 music videos, 43 singles, 1 collaboration album, and many more things. For a while, Metallica, who will perform alongside Miley Cyrus at the Howard Stern show this week, has been preparing to release its new massive reissue of Black Album that includes 53 different artists in the recent past. In the album, Metallica collaborated with some pop stars, including Miley Cyrus, J Balvin, which caused to be some criticized by the band's fans. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me kind of put this in a clear perspective here. As much as I'm not really a fan of these pop bands, I'm not a fan of Miley Cyrus or J Balvin, because I don't know much about J Balvin, but I've known pretty much about Miley Cyrus and some of her works, unfortunately. And I'm not saying that disrespectfully, but I'm not a fan of that person. However, that does not mean that, oh wow, because we happen to do something or a band happens to do something and then automatically fans don't like it. It doesn't mean that they don't care. But it kind of goes back to an original point that I made, that Metallica does not need to always satisfy their fans because it's not always about the fans. It's about what they want to do. And you know what? If they want to actually show something or actually have people collaborate in that matter with something, then by all means. But it's just more of the matter if it's going to be well received or not. If it doesn't work out, well then if it doesn't work out. If it does work out, then cool. And there are a few tweets that are pretty much made from Twitter, but I don't use Twitter anymore. I got rid of that, by the way. But let's just continue on. Recently, James Hetfield made an appearance on The Guardian to stop Metallica fans' concerns. He touched on the band's stability and said that there was nothing that would change it. He also mentioned the Black Album and said it was a huge. Okay, that wasn't put in the right area. And said that it was huge and that they are a band of overachievers. I think part of this is not typed correctly. I think what they were meaning to say is that they are a band of overachievers, is what the person needed to kind of like fix right there. In quotation marks, 30 years of the Black Album. It's a pretty big year, Hetfield said. We're overachievers and we are perfectionists. We think outside the box and we try to be the first at things. There is no nostalgia driving this band. We used to be fearful of it. Another quotation marks. We cast the net wide as possible to rock, alternative country, bluegrass, and rap. I know there's a lot of Metallica fans out there who are pretty concerned about that. Don't worry, Metallica is Metallica. Somebody covering our song isn't going to change us. I mean, I didn't really see much people kind of like... I mean, as much as I'm not really a fan of the whole rap and metal or country metal altogether and that such, but, you know, you can like what you like, but I haven't really seen people... really flip out with the collaboration between Post Malone and Ozzy Osbourne, and, you know, you're hearing that stuff on 97.1 The Eagle. You know, I haven't really seen people flip out about that, so I don't really understand why people really should be flipping out over particular areas here. Elsewhere, James Hetfield added to the Blacklist, "We are still explorers. A project like the Blacklist is proof of that. Someone once told me the rearview mirror is smaller than the windshield for a reason." I don't know how this kind of ties into the collaboration, but it says, like, Kirk Hammett says Metallica refused to use certain type of substances because they have responsibilities. Again, I'm trying to be ad-friendly here. Honestly, I don't see how that has anything to do. But anyway, so there's a few comments right here. There was one I really wanted to kind of put my 2 cents forward into. So someone who I'll just refer to as Mr. CS, and you know, he's got the right to his opinion, but like I got the right to kind of express my disagreement towards this opinion, because you'll see why in a minute. In CS's quotation marks, "James Hetfield is one of the greatest singers in rock and roll history. Seriously? You just revealed your own ignorance, assuming that you even believe that yourself." Well, okay, number one here. People can believe what they want to believe, and you know what? In pretty much terms to serve, and I'm not saying this in a biased way, because, you know, I like to think a little bit with some logic and some reasoning here, but let's just slide the reason about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for a moment, because I think that's not really going to prove any point here. But, you know, we also have greatest singers in rock and roll history. We have Robert Plant, we have Ronnie James Dio, we have Ozzy Osbourne. You know, we have Lemmy Kilmister, Bruce Dickinson. You know, we also have, what was another one that kind of projects into mind when it comes to lead vocalists? You know, Freddie Mercury. Freddie Mercury happens to be one of the greatest singers in rock and roll history in that point too. So that being said, I think I already, did I say Rob Halford? If not, then please correct me. But honestly, in my own opinion, James Hetfield is in fact one of the greatest singers in rock and roll history of all time. That doesn't mean that he's above all the other ones, obviously, but saying that the key word is one of the greatest, not the greatest of all time. One of the greatest singers of all time. Believe that, in my opinion. But, you know, there's other people out there in the history of rock and roll that do actually have legendary vocalist voices. And, you know, I have to say that I would actually put James Hetfield in that area of being one of the greatest rock and roll singers of all time. Someone who's also revolutionized thrash metal with angry vocals, punk rock back in the day, back in like 83, maybe even 82. Eventually evolving its way into a very heavy thrash metal sound. And yeah, going to the Black Album, a little bit more slow paced, but a lot more heavier, but then also adding some different melodies, different areas, but still in vocal-wise, his voice has improved since 83. His voice has evolved all the way till, what? The Hardwired to Self-Destruct album? I mean, even in the S&M album, as someone who has done like an operatic voice, you can also hear in the song one where he pretty much just screams the voice out. I tell you, that's a massive improvement, and that's the reason why I kind of believe that James Hetfield, as a musician, as a guitarist, a frontman, and as a vocalist, I do believe that he is one of the greatest. He is one of the greatest vocalists in rock and roll history. So I kind of have to disagree with Mr. S or CS's point on that. I mean, you're entitled to your opinion, but I also have the right to kind of disagree with that opinion too. He says, yes, Hetfield is a charismatic frontman with a voice that lends itself to the kind of aggressive vocals he does, and I do love the music he's made with Metallica, but there have been dozens of singers in any genre of rock, well, who could sing better than Hetfield. But again, that kind of reiterates to the point that he is one of the greatest, not the greatest. And I think that's where you kind of get lost on that point there, and this is why I have to disagree with you on that. Who could sing better than Hetfield over the years? He's fronted Metallica, and I bet you if you asked him, he's admit as much. I mean, even if he admits it, that's fine, but other people believe otherwise. Great vocals are just not what he brings to the table, and that's where I disagree with you, because his voice, again, has improved and pretty much evolved over the course of past, 20, 30 to even, 20 to 30 years over that area since then. We're talking 83, so 17 years, we're talking over almost the course of 20 to also possibly 30 years. Let's see. I mean, seriously, you lose credibility when you overpraise the artist you write about. Well, I get that, not trying to be completely biased in supporting somebody, and I can understand that there were some grammatical errors in pretty much this article here, but I do kind of disagree with that particular statement. You're allowed to give praise to somebody here. I mean, it's not like the entire area of it was like, he's the greatest rock and roll singer of all time. People just don't know what they're talking about. Anyone who doesn't like the fact that he's collaborating with Miley Cyrus or JBZ or whoever the other guy was, they just don't know what they're talking about. Now, if you're talking about like a complete article like this telling you this, then by all means you pretty much have full reign to get upset about that. But not that I'm saying that you are, but I'm just saying in that context. And it's just kind of weird though, because hasn't there been other bands that have been collaborating with other people as such, and people didn't really flip out as much? I mean, I threw in Ozzy Osbourne and Post Malone. Now, I get a lot of people like Post Malone, and I'm not saying that in any disrespect to Post Malone, but like kind of giving those examples there. I just kind of feel like that's a little bit hypocritical for people to kind of go off on, because, okay, so he's collaborating with Miley Cyrus. Cool. I mean, they pretty much collaborated one time with Lady Gaga. Not a whole lot of people really gave a crap. So, either that or I pretty much didn't read much into it, but I just feel like that's the sort of thing that I think people kind of misconsider or misinterpret. Now, like, again, I may not be a fan of Miley Cyrus or these other people that are pretty much contributing to this new kind of black album area, but again, it's not about what people like. It's not really like us fans. It's not really about us, okay? It goes back to my original point that I've made before. It's not like Metallica themselves are working at a fast food joint and they're taking our orders and, they're doing what we're telling them to do. No, it's not about that. If this is something that they want to do, this is something they want to do. That does not mean that they have to keep pleasing everybody just so that way to make a successful album. If they want to do something like this, that's their right to do so, and we don't have any right to go that. Yeah, you know what? People can be upset about it, fine, but at the end of the day, it's what they want to do. And honestly, I can actually respect that. As much as I'm not really a fan of these other bands, as much as I'm not really a fan of these pop bands and certain country bands or some rap bands, whatever, it doesn't matter. I can still respect that. And saying that as a fan, I have never been disappointed with anything that they have done. You can call me biased for that, that's fine, but this is my point of view of it, because, I don't set my expectations too high when it comes to Metallica. So that's all I really want to go here. I will link this into the description so that way you guys can give any feedback that you want on that. So anyways, this is Thrash Metal Guru here. I just want to say it's good to actually kind of touch upon a subject again, so I will catch you guys later, and you guys have a wonderful day.